This is Cyber Smokehouse, and I'm Ernie.
And I'm Graeme.
Join us as we grill the minds, dig into the experience, and serve up the stories of leaders in cybersecurity.
Cyber Smokehouse is sponsored by TBD Cyber, a cybersecurity strategy consulting firm. Okay, well, today's guest is someone we're really excited to have on the show. She's a cybersecurity executive, risk strategist, a published author, and critical infrastructure defender. She has personally assessed the cybersecurity maturity of many organizations spanning federal agencies, global enterprises, and everything in between. She has built a security program entirely from scratch for a complex engineering and wastewater environment and helped reshape how critical infrastructure thinks about cyber risk. She's a published author with Osaka and the 2024 Cybersecurity Educator of the Year. Today, she's bringing all of that to us as the Chief Information Security Officer at Cengage. Mea Clift, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
All right, so let's light the fire and crank up the heat in the smokehouse. So every smokehouse runs on a different fuel. What's driving most of the heat in your world right now? And not the buzzwords, but the real operational pain.
I think for me, being new in the space, like I've only been in my role about 30 days. So it's still learning the environment, learning the operations, and then figuring out how cybersecurity plays into all that or doesn't play into all that, as the case may be. I think we're trying to restructure all of our foundations around security. So a lot of things are hot right now. I actually tend to say, I'm kind of drinking from a fire hose. It's a little bit full of hot sauce. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. So how are you approaching it? Like, what is your plan for 30, 60, 90 days? I mean, that's how I think most people tackle it now. Just walk us through it. Like, how are you diving into the new role?
So the first thing I did was actually meet with my entire team because there was a lot of change and upheaval here. So I wanted them to understand who I was, what I represent, and what my plans were in a large or overarching kind of thing. So I had a meeting with them. I said, I want to base everything on trust. And I started with the 4 cores of trust from Stephen Covey. I really believe in that. But also I said, I'm coming in with an open door. I want to interview and meet with each of you, talk about what you do, what you're nervous about, what you want to be doing, what you think are concerns for the business. And then I'm going to step out and talk to other parts of the business to understand what they're concerned about, what their risks are, what their priorities are, because I can't align my cyber security without that. The other things that I've done, I had a workforce assessment done of all my team to figure out where my gaps are, not just in like staffing gaps, but also like where I need more staff or where I need to upskill people or where people could be upskilled. So that's happening right now. I'm also doing a tools assessment to make sure that we're using all the tools effectively or where we can condense tools or where we need new tools. But I'm also coming up with strategy that aligns with all of our business objectives and that we are a very ambitious business. So a lot of the next 60 days is going to be talking to the business, seeing what their priorities are so that I can say, hey, my strategy aligns with this in this way. I'm also taking all my leadership, my direct reports offsite to talk about my vision for the future, what we actually see as the big risks, because I don't want it to be a siloed decision. It has to be a decision with everybody because we all have to be playing to the same sheet of music. I need all my orchestra sections to play together. So we all have to make sure that we're writing the same composition to move forward and have a unified front. So that's kind of where I'm going next and where I've been so far. And it's been really positive. I've had some really great conversations with my team. I've had to do a little restructuring and realignment, which is what I think everybody needs to do initially. And so far, everything's been super great and we're moving forward at a good clip.
So I have to go there and the AI in the bingo card, I have to bring up the AI piece. So, obviously if you did this 3 years ago, it'd be much different than now. I mean, so in that staff assessment, in your tools assessment, how's that different from how you would have done it, like I said, just 3 years ago to now? I mean, is it really driving? Are you looking at it through a different lens? And you must be.
A little bit, yeah. I think, I have to start thinking about AI security. Do I need an AI security team? What does that look like? What am I doing to protect AI? Do I need to start building policies? Do I need to start enhancing my TPRM? Is that already part of it? But also looking at my skills and what my team's doing time-wise. Are we spending a lot of time? Do I have staff who are only doing like level 1 triage? And can I be automating that with an AI tool? where can we find synergies? My company is very AI forward. I ended up using a phrase earlier this week called, I said that my organization was very risk excited about AI. And that kind of coined a new opportunity kind of there. And I consider myself risk excited in many ways. So it's meeting the business where they are around AI, but also how can we leverage it for security effectiveness and improvement too. So it definitely is changing in that I'm not saying, oh, I need beginners for this. I need beginners in some areas that AI can't cover, but what can I automate and take out of people's hands so that they can be spending more time doing the things that need to get done from an engineering perspective or a governance perspective or a project perspective.
So what else? What are we missing? What other hot topics other than the new role side are you thinking industry wise, like that you hear your peers really talking about? I mean, AI is the easy one.
I mean, I think everything kind of revolves around that right now. What I found fascinating this week. So I gave a presentation to ISSC Silicon Valley about going back to the foundations and using GRC to do that. And a couple of people came up to me afterwards and they were like, we were so glad you didn't talk about AI in your presentation.
Oh, see, this is my fault that I took us down that path.
No, it's everybody's doing it. I was at another conference the next day and every single conversation revolved around AI in some form or fashion. What are you doing about strategy? What is your strategy? How does your organization feel about it? What are you doing to put guardrails up? And it's like, yeah, that's totally kind of the monster in the room. But when you think about people coming to you asking about like the mythos stuff, and I think from mythos, people ask me my opinion, and it's like it's it's infinity times infinity. It's finding more vulnerabilities, but we already have a ton of vulnerabilities that we have to look at. I don't need it to find it's going to find more vulnerabilities. I don't need it to do that. We already know that we're overwhelmed with that kind of noise. My thing is, how do I move to patch faster? How can I make that happen? How can I move the needle forward in a faster way to remediate those things that are most impacting? Like if you find 500 vulnerabilities and some of them are CVS S score 9 point whatever, and most of those are compensated for, or they're in an internal network, are they still 9.0s for me? Not really, because can I get to them? No. So then how do I break down that signal noise? What's actually being exploited? What do I need to take care of? That's the thing that I really want to see in the future, and I still haven't seen it. And then also the thing that I haven't seen that I'm surprised by, I mean, other than places like Hidden Layer, who's watching the watchers? Who's watching the AIs? And how are we looking at AI vulnerabilities and mitigating those? And what's going to happen in that landscape? That's the thing that I'm kind of watching with keen interest personally. But I think, yeah, foundations, a lot of people are starting to go back to too. So that's really valuable.
I think that's fascinating. So I was just at a dinner this week and same topic. So same thing. So everybody said, well, the thing we need to look at AI is back to data. So what does your data security program look like? And do you actually know where that data is that's getting ingested into these models, and what can it actually access, which then gets you to identity access. So now you got non-human identities in these agents. So like, what does your identity program look like? And then back to vulnerability management. So to your point, if you got all these broken foundational elements before AI, they're just broken faster and quicker with AI. So that's a very good point.
Yeah, if you don't have the guardrails in place for good data security, you're losing data. And that's an inevitability. And then how important is that to you is going to be a discussion that you have. Again, identities are the first line of defense. And if you're not paying attention to permissions and things around those non-human identities, you're just as messed up. So it's like, let's go back to the basics to make sure that we have those in place while we're letting the business advance. Because if we don't, we're going to be in significant trouble in the future.
Yeah, and it's been interesting from our perspective, from almost more of a sales perspective, the consulting side. We haven't really seen the convergence of those discussions. So it's either someone from a data side is sold on data security and you need to build a program, and they've been doing it anyway. Like they've been focused on that from the beginning, or they're like, we need to think about AI. So they're thinking AI governance. I think more along the lines of, how are we going to secure it? Look for vulnerabilities. Like what's our governance play? Like how are we going to manage that? But they haven't thought to, okay, I need to go back to the foundations that are feeding it. They haven't converged, at least from the conversations that I'm having.
Yeah, I think there's still, and this was kind of my takeaway from the conference. It's still like you're either just getting the guardrail set up to use AI responsibly, or you're trying to just let AI happen. And it's interesting because I'm confused why there isn't more of that convergence and why people aren't having those conversations. I've talked to our AI person about, who owns security? How does that play into it? How do we want it to play into it? How do we move forward on it? And I think honestly, some of it is a little bit of fear. Like they're afraid to tell people no, because then they're going to be like, oh, we're inhibiting advancement. And that's never what we want to do, right? We want to empower people to make the right decisions. And we also want to make sure that we're not putting the business at risk. So it goes back to, one of the things that I'm trying to do in my organization is not be the Department of No, N-O, it's the Department of No, K-N-O-W. So talking in that context to be like, hey, it's cool that you want to use this tool, but let's think about what it's going to contain, how it's going to work, how we need to put our guardrails in around it, what protections do we need to make sure that they aren't going to put data in there that's bad, or that it doesn't get extra access to things that it shouldn't. I have a colleague who has done some really cool things around like how to do pen test red teaming into LLMs and chat agents. And I think that's the next phase of where you need to be with these things. It's great to bring it on, but also let's test it to make sure that it's working as intended. And if it's not working as intended, do we have to change the script? Do we have to add skills to it? Do we have to make it so that it's not doing these things that we don't want it to do?
Yeah, and some threats are slow burn risks, and others build quietly. And some are flash fires. So, as you've talked about AI, but in addition to that, what other things are you kind of concerned about today?
I think I think identity is always going to be an issue. I think we're seeing that now, but I also think that we think because we have MFA in place that's the only identities we need to worry about. MFA is in place, we're great. No, there's tokens, there's hard-coded passwords in programming. We're now seeing things like the Salesforce stuff that happened with shiny hunters and how they're going out and using these public communities. So it's not just like the control of having an account set up and having that protected. It's also going back and looking at the privileges that account has and making sure that you're not just defaulting to giving everybody the keys to the castle. I think that that's something that we need to do better at, because we're starting to see where people are finding those very simple holes to get into very complex systems and cause very significant incidences. And so I'm like, to the non-human identity thing, do we just say, are we getting a system here that are we giving this non-human identity access to all of these systems that they can just pull all of this data out of like our financial systems? Or are we doing something where we're controlling that it only has this limited access, getting back to least privilege as we know it, instead of just being like, oh, this is fast and easy, I'm just going to give it everything so that it can go do what it needs to do. I think asking intentional questions is something that we have to do on a more consistent basis around that.
No, I agree with you. I've heard one system say that, as identity might be the last frontier that they actually get to manage, because applications have been outsourced to SaaS, databases and infrastructures go onto the cloud. So the one thing that I actually still control is identities. And like you said, there's a lot of emerging frameworks and protocols, but there's still no real answer yet to really how we manage agentic AI identities, because they're not like a typical privileged access credential, right? They're not specific purpose. They're very contextual based. So what they can do is kind of hard to put boundaries around. So it's going to be fascinating. I mean, it's a fascinating to see the stuff change, and there will be there are protocols and standards and frameworks emerging, but it's an exciting field.
It is. It's really interesting how you like see like an agentic AI is really like three raccoons in a trench coat, because it's like one AI talking to another AI through an API, but what does that API have access to? Who controls who has access to all of those agents? And then all of that access control. It's going to be a very interesting Gordian knot over time, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so in the introduction, I mentioned that you've been involved in infrastructure security, wastewater, and so I'd be interested in your thoughts on, what the state of operational security, operational technology security, and critical infrastructure. You've lived that, so we've got some challenges in that space as well, right?
We absolutely do. I'm a big proponent of Josh Corman, and I am the Calvary Group and his program Undisruptable 27 about raising awareness of the security vulnerabilities, and especially in our water and wastewater systems, but in critical infrastructure as a whole. I think OT security has had a lens shined upon it in the past few years, and that's really great. There's some great powerhouses in the field that are talking about it, and people are starting to look at it and think about those risks. But I think there's still so much that can be done there, and I think we never expected to be at this point, and we think that things won't, like, I like to think that I think like a supervillain, and not everybody does. In that, yeah, somebody could do some damage, and I remember, people had told me, oh, that won't happen here. People won't come in and compromise these systems. And then, then we had John Osterley at Congress going, no, actually, they've been living off the land and they're waiting to disrupt us. And that's Undisruptable 27. And, it's still a place where I think we're starting to see momentum, but there's still, like, people just don't understand it, and people don't see the long-term effects. We're still very much in our immediacy. Oh, it means that, it's like a water main break. I'm going to have to boil water. No, it means water is literally not traversing. And if water isn't traversing, data centers can't run. Nuclear power plants can't run. Hospitals cannot run. And it's really, it's a big compounding problem. And it's not just like a little tiny manufacturing plant goes down. It's a big supply chain issue in the grand scheme of things. So, people ask me what keeps me up at night in the grand scheme of cybersecurity, and I always say critical infrastructure, and especially water. It was really funny when I was working at Liberty Mutual, helping to advise underwriters on cyber insurance. I would go out and talk to brokers, and I found out that one broker had actually said that had listened to that and had gone and started storing water in their basement.
So, how do you stand today? What is your go-to sources? Do you obviously go to conferences? Can you mention that? But what in addition to that, what else do you do to kind of keep up to date?
So I go to conferences. I keep up with several Slack channels that I'm members of that keep up with the articles and what's happening there. I look at, what NIST is coming out with, what OWASP is coming out with. I follow some of the thought leaders in those spaces to say, hey, what's actually going on here? That really is beneficial. I like to see, I go to the Cyber Leaders Forum at RSA, and I go to RSA to see what's happening. I pay attention to what's happening at DEF CON and what they're finding, because they're the, the hunter-gatherers there to figure out what's happening and what the actual threat landscape looks like. So that's really powerful. It's a lot of taking in those articles and going, okay, what is the actual risk here? What actually is happening? Because I like to stay ahead of that. There's so many things happening on a consistent basis that you just can't keep up with one kind of source. You can't just go to an annual conference and go, here's the new thing. It's almost every morning. It's like, what's new, what's happening. So I'm checking my channels, and I'm going, okay, this is the newest thing. What does that mean to me? When the Mythos thing was released, we all kind of took a step back and go, okay, what does this represent? What do we need to be doing here? And that's, you take in all of it. You kind of decide, what is the actual pain point here? What am I going to be asked about tomorrow? How do I feel about this in the grand scheme of what I'm doing, but in the grand scheme of cybersecurity as well?
Very cool. So when we opened up and we heard about you taking the new role, I think we learned a lot about your leadership style, and it's not dictatorship saying this is what Mea wants and we're going to do what I want to do. So it's about building consensus. So we just wanted to talk about your leadership style, and I think I got it. But how would you characterize your leadership style?
So I'm a big proponent of trust and empowerment. Like, I don't want to. It's not about me. I am somebody who has leadership. I am somebody who understands the landscape. I understand what needs to happen, but I can't be that person unto myself. Like, there's business decisions that have to be made. There's risk acceptances that have to happen. My team has to be able to do their best work, and I can't be there over their shoulder all the time. I wouldn't want to be. I have way too many other things to think about, and I have to be that strategic development to go, this is the direction we want to go. How do we want to do it? And then I can go to my team and empower them to make that happen. I think, again, going back to Stephen Covey and Trust and Inspire, he has these like 6 tenets that he talks about, he believes, and I write them down every morning. And it's like, I believe people have greatness inside them, and it's my job to empower them, not control. People are whole people. I need to inspire, not motivate, not just motivate. There's enough for everyone because there's plenty of work to go around. I should be fostering caring over competition, servant leadership. Leadership is stewardship. So I need to put, service above self-interest, which I try to do. Like somebody was asking me if I was going to Black Hat, and I was like, no, I'm sending my people, and I want them to speak, and I want them to be empowered to go and learn, not be. And then the final part is enduring influence is created from the inside out, and my job is to go first. So my job is to take ownership. My job is to say, I messed up and here's why, or here's what I'm doing and this is why it's important, and feel free to come and challenge me on that, and let's have that conversation. So I take all of that into consideration when I have conversations with my people, when I hear what they want to be doing, when I'm thinking about what the business wants to do. At the end of the day, I have to give that risk concern. I have to take ownership of security, but I can't do it in a silo, and I can't do it as an army of one. I have to work with my entire team to move that needle forward.
No, that's great. I like it. And so is there a certain point, like when do you gauge is the time that you need to step in and help versus, stepping back and letting them figure out their own problems? Like, how do you know it's like, okay, this person's really flailing. Like I need to get in here and help. They're kind of over their skis.
It really depends on the person, obviously, but it goes back to those 4 cores of trust, right? Intent, integrity, capabilities, and results. So if I've seen results from someone, I'm going to let them kind of have a longer leash before I see if they don't have the capabilities or they don't have that content, then I'm going to jump in and say, okay, I have experience here. Let's make this happen. If it's coming from on high, I'm going to jump in and be like, hey, what are we doing about this? And they go, yeah, I've got it. Cool. Just keep me on the loop or whatever. If there's something where I know that there's a gap in capability, then I'm going to jump in and be like, okay, I need to put the screws down on this. If I'm not seeing movement in a certain amount of time, then I'm expecting it to happen, and I set those clear expectations, then I'm going to jump in and say, hey, we need to move on this, or hey, I need this to happen, or hey, let's take initiative on this because it's coming down the pike. Let's get that going. And thankfully, my team is really on top of things. I've only had to jump in to certain aspects of the organization, which is really great. Which has allowed me to continue to have these conversations to find where we need to be stepping in more, where we need to be moving forward, and how we need to align with the business.
Yeah, I know we share the bond of the Booz Allen back in our careers, and I remember early in my career we had a principal, and we had a project that was a little chaotic in the beginning, and the principal just kind of grabbed me. He's like, Ernie, just step back. This is normal. This is normal. Storming and norming with a project. Just let it pan out. Like this is how people figure out the problems. You go. You just let it. Just watch. It'll work itself out. And sure enough, it did. So sometimes that is natural, and you got to just let it happen before you jump in. Just the conflict is good, unless it's violent. But it's good conflict. Yeah, that's good.
Hopefully, it's never violent. Oh my goodness, especially in corporate life. Like, yeah, sometimes sometimes just have to let people figure it out, and sometimes you just have to sit back and go, okay, I need to take a breath. I need to let that happen. And in some cases that's great. And in other cases, it teaches you where you need to add processes or you need to add other things. It's why we have after actions during incident response. It's like, what didn't work? What do we need to improve upon to go forward? And I think that happens with everything that we do. It's just sometimes it's like, okay, I need to watch and see how this plays out so that in after action, I can go, that didn't quite happen the way that we anticipated it happening. How can we fix that in the future? But also, we've all been allowed to swim on our own at some point, and we have to do that if we want to show that we're willing to excel and move forward.
And then how about managing up? So do you have any tricks to communicating upwards to the board and even your leadership? just translating what's going on to the program and just, explaining in layman's terms, like, are you secure?
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with analogies, but also understanding what's the priority of the business. So going to, my transformation officer and being like, what keeps you up at night? Going to my digital officer, going, what keeps you up at night? Going to my CIO and what keeps him up at night? Having those direct conversations and then saying, okay, here's my strategy to go forward on this. Or how do you feel about this is very valuable. I think also understanding what their objectives are helps you too. And I've taken, I've gotten some of those. I haven't had all my conversations yet, unfortunately, with my senior leaders, but making sure that I'm talking to their language, and that may mean actually using AI to be like, how do I talk to a financial person? How do I talk to a digital officer? How do I talk to sales enablement? How do I talk to, higher education? And really getting the same lexicon together so that because my security language isn't going to be the same as their language. So how do I find the common language that we can talk together on? Or how do I speak in their language to understand from their perspective what we need to collaborate together on? I think that's really beneficial. Again, storytelling is really valuable. I found that to be really, really great. Um, and just getting them to see that I'm not trying to be a blocker. I'm not trying to be an enemy. I'm trying to be a collaborator. I'm trying to help the business foster success through those trust relationships, and building security enhances customer trust.
That's great. Yep. No, it's the great advice there. So as you look out in the future, Mea, what's one thing that maybe excites you the most about the future, and what's one thing that scares you the most?
Flying cars now. I love flying cars. I think it's interesting to be able to see what's going to happen next around the advancements in security in general. I think while a lot of folks are worried about the future of security, and we're seeing condensing of employees and roles, I think we're seeing the opening of a lot of opportunity too. And we're seeing that there's still going to be plenty of work in various areas. I think there are people who worry about like automation taking over everything. Well, automation also opens up new risk, and in that new risk is new opportunity, right? Um, I think AI also scares me because I think there is a lot of challenge around the way that people are moving to it and thinking that it is the end all be all solution, and that it's going to replace all these people. I worry that it's going to replace humanity. And like somebody asked me how I feel about AI recently. And I said, I am great if it's a tool that is talking to other technology and it's being used in a technological concept. I am concerned when it's used to take humanity away. So doing things like art, doing things like music, doing the things that make humans human, that seems weird to me. And it concerns me. Like, humans are our greatest innovators, and we have this great judgment. We have this great ability for creativity. I think I read something where like AI and computers and technology use the past. Creativity needs the current moment and the current emotion and the current feeling. And you'll never um, get that out of a computer and get that out of AI. And I think I agree with that to a certain extent. There's emotion there. And I think that is actually what we're seeing, where like students were booing people talking about AI at graduations this week. I think we're craving humanity again, and we're starting to crave that human connection. And it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few years about building those connections back and stronger.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, um, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and that kind of theme comes through a lot when people are talking about the impact of AI, and look, are we going to have robotic tools maybe doing some of the trade things that we do today? Yeah, but like it's probably decades away, right, before we have robotic plumbers or welders, and even then they're still probably not going to be able to do everything that we can do, right? There's certain skills there that can be hard to automate. So yeah, interesting.
So We've been in the fire for a while. Let's take a step back from the pit, and we want to get to know who's behind the tongs. So that's us saying, we want to learn more about you. So So was it, you were in kindergarten and you knew you were going to be a cybersecurity professional? I think most of us fell into it. So what's your journey to cyber? How did you get into the profession?
No, so in kindergarten, I think, oh no, in kindergarten, I wanted to be an astronaut because I saw, of all things, I saw the Challenger explosion. And I was like, space is cool. Right? I know, I don't know. It was weird. But yeah, I went on a space kick for a while. And then I found Indiana Jones and I wanted to be an archaeologist up until I took an archaeology class in college. And then I was like, no. Um, so I just I fell into IT and cyber really. I was like working on my home PC and the internet in the 90s and loved it. And then I got my first job and just kept going and it was good and I had logical progression and it was talented. So I was getting to this point in my career where I wasn't going to grow anymore and this contract came available to do vulnerability management and then I said cool and then I got into the first day of the contract and they said no, actually going to do GRC and I was like what's GRC? And so I get in and I'm like, oh, it's documentation. And I was like, because IT people and documentation don't always mix because it's just, we want to fix things. We don't want to document. But I ended up getting in and the leader of that team ended up taking a 5-week leave of absence. And unfortunately, I ended up taking lead and I realized that he had been talking at the IT people not with them. And he wasn't actually translating what was needed. He was just like pontificating for hours on a control. And so they weren't understanding that all he needed from them was to know that something was in place and a screenshot or some sort of documentation that showed that it was there. Something that would take an IT person 30 seconds to do, he was supposed to translate. And so I came in and started doing that. And I realized that I had this superpower because I understood the IT need and I understood the security and I knew how to bring them together, make those analogies to say, what do I need? What, can you give that to me? And then talk about it as, well, this is kind of a problem and this is why it's a problem. So I ended up taking that and helping get authority to operates for systems, which had never really happened in the org before. And then I took that to doing assessments for larger organizations when I moved over to Booz Allen, which was super fun. And then I realized, so I'm giving them all these recommendations for these gaps. I'm not actually seeing the fruition of it. What if I was able to actually build a program and run it? And so then I went off and did that. And then it was like, oh, cool. And then now I'm doing that same thing as CISO where I'm actually saying, hey, this is a gap and I can actually fix it, which is super fun. So I never would have anticipated being here. And I still kind of sit back every once in a while and I go, what even is my life? So it's really, it's really cool. I love it.
All right, I have follow-on questions because I spent a lot of my career at Booz Allen and I thought about doing it as well, but I've managed to stay purely in consulting my whole career. So how was the transition out of the Booz consulting life into industry? Because I've never done it. So
I mean, I had already been in industry, just coming back to it, I flow in and out of industry, I think. It was really good because I had this overarching view. I had seen different organizations and the way they played. And then I was like, okay, I've seen where they stumble. How can I fix that so that I don't stumble in those same places? Fun fact, you'll still probably stumble in some of those same places because the other thing that I've learned is it's not about me. Like I can come in and be like, I know all of these things. I know how to fix all these things, but I have to get other people to come along with me. And sometimes you don't always get that. So it's learning how to get the business to come with you. It's learning that your risk isn't the only most important risk ever in the history of ever, because I do think in cybersecurity, we get kind of siloed thinking our robots are going to take over the world and that's going to be the end of the world. When in reality, it could be not a robot at all. It could be, somebody's actually siphoning money out of the company. That's a much bigger risk that I don't have any insight or anything to take care of. So I think, it's been really interesting to flow in and out of consulting or advising and then coming back in and going, okay, I've seen again, more pitfalls, more things that I can fix in advance and make these changes. But then also remembering that, there's other competing factors that I have to play into, and I have to sometimes be okay with not fixing everything. I can't save the world all by myself as much as I think I can.
Would you do anything differently looking back?
I would probably take some more business courses, honestly. I would probably take some more courses to understand the business. Like I have a personal MBA book up here. I've got some other things. That might be something that I would do, but honestly, I wouldn't give up my path for anything. It's been like everything that's happened has led me to this point. I might have moved out of the DC area sooner because I really love Minnesota, but that's more of a personal decision, not really a professional decision.
Yeah, you Minnesotans just love it there.
We do.
I don't know. It's cold. It's very cold. Freezing is warm.
No, we get all 4 seasons. There's like 1 week of what I call negative stupid, and then it's wonderful. I love it here.
One more question. So if we had younger people, early professionals, what advice would you have for them?
Find your passion. So cybersecurity is huge. You can go out and find the CISO mind map that Raymond has. There's so many different things in it. I talk to people a lot and they're like, I want to get into cybersecurity. I go, okay, where? Oh, I just want to get into cybersecurity. I'll do anything. That's not going to get you in. You have to find that thing that really gets you excited. The thing that you want to dive into that rabbit hole and deep down in and stick to. And then make that your thing and learn about it, talk about it, be inspired by it, network with people and build that community. Be curious, constant curiosity, because everything changes and there's always new things to learn. I think if you're not curious, you won't succeed either. But really, when I talk to new people who are just getting started and they're like, well, I'm trying to find my spot, I go, well, what about your current job makes you happy? And that helps me to figure them out and figure out where they could be going. I talked to somebody who was like, oh, GRC was told to me as a place that I could go. And I said, well, what makes you think that? And he was like, oh, well, I like doing this research thing and I like going down and finding this root cause and figuring out where the root is and what. And I said, no, you want to be a security researcher. And this person came back and said, yeah, but those jobs are hard to come by. I said, all jobs in security are hard to come by. Do everything you can to be successful in that space, and that job will come to you. Be where you want to be, because if not, that passion isn't going to exude. And there's going to be 15 other people who are passionate and who are doing the projects and who are talking about it and can be very excited about it, who are going to be way ahead of you in that interview.
Yeah, that's so true. And life's too short. You got to follow your passion. So I 100% agree with that. Find your passion. And I mean, there is something to be said about, if you can get into some sort of rotation period or internship while you're going through college or whatever, and learn a little bit about what the different fields are to kind of help find that passion. That's great, but not everyone has that opportunity. All right, so we can't let you leave the show without talking about smoking. And we know in our prep call we had with you that you are you have a whole setup. So tell us about your smoking setup.
Yeah, so I've got a Weber kettle. It's actually right outside my window here. I'm looking at it. It's got the cover on it because it's raining today here. And then I also have a Weber grill, so for charcoal. And I am a charcoal and wood smoker. I don't do pellets or gas. I just like the flavor of wood smoke so much better, and charcoal. So it's 18 inches. I can do a ton of good stuff on it. I also have a Pit Viper fan on it with the Barbecue Guru with the Bluetooth, so that I can set it and mostly forget it. I can set my thermostats. It can run a long smoke. I have not done a long smoke yet. I want to do like a 16-hour brisket on it this year. That's kind of one of my summer goals. But I love it. It's super great. I can do 2 beer can chickens. I can do like 6 racks of ribs for parties and stuff. I love entertaining. I really like doing good pecan smoke is probably my favorite. And apple. I like some of the sweeter stuff because I do a lot of pork on the grill and a lot of chicken, and that takes up that sweet smoke really nicely. So yeah, that's my setup. It's really nice, and I can do some really good stuff in it. I have a pool, so in the summer I have pool parties, and I just like, I'll put pork belly candy on, or I'll put ribs on or something, and I'll be like, come over, and I'll pull that off, and then everybody brings sides, and we have a great time.
All right, I got Weber Smoky Mountain questions because I started with that and then I got lazy and went to the Traeger.
Okay.
So do you do like how do you fuel it? Do you do the minion method and then do wood chunks in there, soak them in the beginning? How long do you do wood? Like how do you fuel it?
So I don't chunk. I do chunks, but I don't soak it. So I do the raw charcoal. So I used to start with briquettes. Now I use like the hard cowboy charcoal. So I put that in, and then I get those little tiny cubes, and I do the kind of minion. I build like the big pile. Once the cubes burn down, then I'll put the bricks of wood on. I don't soak the wood because they're the big log pieces, and they do a long smoke, so they can stay for about 4 or 5 hours before I have to add more. I used to do chips and smoke, and soak those chips and put them in. But you'd have to go back like every hour or two. And what I like to do is really set it and forget it, and let that smoke just kind of waft through, and let the fan kind of manage it. So I've really gotten into the more big blocks of wood with that cowboy charcoal. And then about every 6 hours, I'll add more charcoal in as I see the temperature kind of dip a little bit. And I'll add a couple more logs of wood for that smoke.
So Ernie's all about the technique. I'm all about the outcome. So what about the food? What's your favorite? What's your favorite recipe? What do you like to do? What's the favorite that comes off the smoker?
I think this past year, learning how to do pork belly burnt ends, I have this amazing recipe, and it's a two-part recipe because there's a rub that I found online that I use. It's like cayenne pepper and salt and I think dry mustard and oregano or something, and tons of paprika because of course. And then you add honey and butter after you do some smoking, and then you add a sauce, and it's the best. And it only takes like 5-6 hours. So you can have, 10 pounds of pork belly done in about 6 hours on the smoker. And then you're just, wow, so good. And it's sweet and savory and just, so amazing. For myself, I love doing beer can chicken because that can feed me, because it's just me and the dogs. I can live off of chicken for a week, and then I can make like tacos or, quesadillas or sandwiches or whatever off of it. And that's like 2 hours and you're done. And again, nice rub on the outside, and it's just delicious. I love doing 3-2-1 ribs. I want to try a brisket this year. I did a leg of lamb a couple of years ago, and that was okay. I also really love doing like cedar plank with there was a recipe in Smoking Meat, which is just like a basic Bible book on how to do some basic smoking for bourbon peaches that you could do on cedar plank. That's really, really good too.
Well, interesting. We might have to.
And I'll smoke a mac and cheese once in a while too, which is really yummy.
Well, we talked about putting together a recipe book from the guests. So we'll have to hit you up from a few of those recipes and see the one.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, happy to.
All right.
This could be.
I'm just getting hungry.
Same. I kind of want to go smoke some mac and cheese now.
All right, so we were hoping you could be our first guinea pig on a lightning round idea. Are you game?
Yes, I love that. Let's do it.
So Graeme, what the concept is, we're gonna fire some questions, right? And then we want just the quick, less than a sentence. What's your idea, right? All right, so this is give our first go at it. We're gonna see how it works.
Okay.
All right, am I going or are you going, Graeme? How are we doing this? Me?
It's
Me.
Yeah.
All right, you ready? All right. Most underrated security control that nobody talks enough about.
Actually, business impact assessments.
All right. Hot take. What's the security industry getting completely wrong?
Risk.
Biggest myth about what CISOs actually do. I'll repeat. Biggest myth about what CISOs actually do. I mean, I'm convinced you guys just go to dinners all the time. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, I think it's going to dinners all the time.
I mean, you probably could. I can't imagine how many dinners you get invited to.
You can, but it's also like that we sit around and do very little all day. Like it's just PowerPoints, and I'm like, I haven't touched a PowerPoint in 2 weeks. Like I don't have time to touch a PowerPoint right now.
All right, last question of the lightning round. And I don't think we covered this. What are you smoking this weekend? Because we are recording this before Memorial Day weekend, so it's a big barbecue weekend.
I actually think I'm gonna do a steak. So I might smoke some red meat, or I might just put a steak on the grill. I'm not sure yet.
Sounds like a good way to do it. Again, getting more hungry by the minute.
I'm running a 5K, so I need to protein load and carb load. So yeah.
You don't need to give us an excuse to cook some steak.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of smoking the ribeyes and then reverse searing them. That's so good.
I haven't done that yet. Maybe I'll do that this weekend. Great idea.
All right, Mea. So before we wrap up, where can people find you or follow you or get in touch?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. You can follow me. You can just look for Mea Clift. It's MEA. Don't spell it with an I. And I post there all the time. I post a couple times a week. And every Friday I post Human Fridays, which is just about me being a human and some of the cool things going on in my world that aren't cybersecurity related. So that's really fun. And you can message me there, and you can hear me on this podcast. Hooray!
This has been so much of a pleasure. Thank you for bringing your honesty and experience into the Smokehouse today.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's been a pleasure, and happy smoking.
Thanks. And to everyone listening, if you've got something out of the conversation today, if it made you think about something or made you laugh, tell someone about it. That's how we grow the community. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you on the next Cyber Smokehouse.
And that wraps another episode. Thank you for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at cybersmokehouse.com. Cyber Smokehouse is sponsored by TBD Cyber, a cybersecurity strategy consulting firm.
TBD Cyber works with organizations to assess their security program, develop and implement security initiatives, and optimize their security investments. We work in areas as broad as data security, risk management, cyber resilience, and security architecture. Our clients value us for our extensive expertise and independent advice, which is why we do not sell security products or deliver managed security services. If you want to work with a trusted advisor, we can help. You can learn more at tbdcyber.com. We'll see you on the next one.